Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Shop Adventures, my weekly excursion where I leave the homestead here at Athletic Geek HQ and search my bounty of comics, graphic novels, action figures, collectibles, and all things in between. First things first, time to talk about what stood out from last week's pull list. And when I say what stood out, it's kind of the pick of the week, but it's also kind of what I remembered the most. And just, there's going to be a spoiler warning here. Sorry. But gonna have to address the what was the most talked about thing in all of comics last week, and that was Batman by Tom King. Alfred is dead. Alfred was murdered by Bane in front of Damian. Yeah, so just I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, they've killed Alfred before. I feel like some people are being a little too harsh, and I mean, as I said before in the past, I've been very critical of Tom King and his work in the past, but for everybody getting all up in arms about him finally pulling, I shouldn't say finally, but him, no pun intended, pulling the trigger on killing Alfred, even though it wasn't killed by a gun, but everybody kind of being ready to accept that during the Death of the Family story with Scott Snyder, it kind of shows that sometimes people hate on Tom King just because it's the cool thing to do. And while I don't love everything he's ever written, I've loved some, I've liked some, I've disliked and hated others. I kind of feel that from our community that's kind of annoying, but this is also the same group of people that sent death threats to him. So, yeah, that's pretty stupid. But I'm not sure how I feel about it with the Doomsday Clock story still kind of going on and the Year of the Villain going on. You knew there'd be stuff like this going on. In comics, there'd be some deaths, there'll be some tragedies, there'll be some turns. Whether or not they stay canon or if they get retconned at the end of all this, that remains to be seen, but that's the one thing that stood out the most. I really enjoyed the Deadpool Annual. I thought it was just a fun story, kind of everything you'd want from a Deadpool story, so I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Usually I try to pick three. Before I forget, Frank Miller's Superman Year One, Book Two. I didn't really think of that as just a regular comic because of the format, but I really enjoyed, again, small spoiler warnings here, really enjoyed how he told the story of Clark in the Navy and Clark going to Atlantis. And, Frank Miller, he's a very polarizing figure, and rightfully so. There's a lot of Frank Miller's work that, for all the greatness that he has done in his career, he's had a lot of stinkers that have just been so what the fuck that it's kind of hard to trust what he writes. But a lot of people haven't liked Superman Year One so far, but I liked it. I like this issue. I like how, I feel like he has a really good understanding of Superman, of Superman's morals, his heart, his desire to help others. That really came out in this book, and so far so good. Some people don't like it, but I guess I'll be on the side that does. So yeah, that's all. Those were I'd say Deadpool and Superman Year One are my picks of the week if this were a pick of the week segment, and then just kind of what stood out has to be the death of a beloved character. So yeah, that's what stood out from last week. I will see you when I get back here to the homestead with this week's bounty. Hey everyone, I am back here at the homestead here at Athletic Geek HQ. Oh boy, it is going to be a thick stack of books to get through this week. Quite the bounty. Let's get right to it. First things first, we have Avengers number 23. And, with everything they kind of teased with Ghost Rider in the last one, I'm interested to see where this goes. I've liked Jason Aaron's run on Avengers so far. Haven't always really got the... didn't really get into it when it was tied in to an event book that I wasn't reading. But, still kind of skimmed and still enjoyed Jason Aaron's writing. So, definitely looking forward to this one. Avengers number 23. And speaking of Jason Aaron... we have Thor, number 16, and I know that, I believe this run's is getting ready to come to an end, so it may remain to be seen whether or not I keep reading Thor after the fact, but enjoyed the run so far. It's made me buy a Thor book, and before this, I've never disliked Thor, but I just was never much of a Thor guy. So it's the very first Thor in single issues book I ever picked up. I do have trades of Thor, especially Jason Aaron's run with the Jane Foster Thor, but yeah, this is the first run of Thor comics I ever bought for myself, so looking forward to this, and if it's concluding soon, it was a hell of a run. Thor number 16. And from there, we go to House of X number 3. Whew. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not digging it. Not. I can't follow it. It's hard to follow. I don't. They're trying something new and innovative, and my hat's off to him, and I give Jonathan Hickman credit for doing something different, and not like different in the way to where it's like destroying continuity or changing the characters really. At least not like to a ridiculous level, you know. He's not changing a bunch of stuff about them or retconning a bunch of their history. So I'm not like feeling like, you know, angry about it, but I just feel like, what is this book? I can't follow. It's hard to get into. Ugh. But it is what it is. House of X, number 3. We now enter the world of DC, and we have Batman Detective Comics, number 1010. Deadshot story starting, and Tomasi's been knocking it out of the park with every issue, and I'm very, very interested to see his take on an underrated villain, in my opinion, Deadshot. I know they did Deadshot really, really well on Arrow. I know a lot of people didn't like... I didn't like that version of Deadshot, but I thought it was really, really well done. It's just kind of weird that he's fighting Green Arrow and not Batman, but we have the villain that is the most polar opposite of Batman in the fact that, you know, he likes guns, and Batman does not carry a gun. So, you know, I always really like that kind of just dichotomy between the two characters, but yeah, looking forward to see what Tomasi can do with Deadshot. Batman Detective Comics, number 1010. And we go to Batman Superman, number 1 by Joshua Williamson. And I've enjoyed his run on The Flash. So if I found out he'd be writing 2 characters I also really enjoy, one being my favorite, Batman. I was excited to hear that, and I definitely want to read this story and, you know, see if it's up there with the Greg Pak and the Jeff Loeb runs with the Batman Superman, you know, books were there together. It's a hard act to follow, especially with the Jeff Loeb run, but you know, we'll see. I've liked all he's done on The Flash, so I'm optimistic. Batman Superman, number 1. And it's a Superman heavy week this week, folks, as we have Action Comics number 1014. This one is a Year of the Villain tie-in, and yeah, the whole landscape's changing in the DC universe because of that. So we'll see what's happening as the Year of the Villain continues. Action Comics number 1014, and we have Superman number 14, and this one, I guess, you know, with the continuity, it takes place before the Year of the Villain begins, and it's kind of the concluding all the different Kryptonian stuff. You have Zod, Supergirl, and everything that was kind of going on with that. So yeah, this takes place before the Year of the Villain begins, so kind of tying up loose ends there before this book, I'm sure, will also go under the Year of the Villain banner that's encompassing all the DC universe. So we'll see how this storyline concludes and see where it can lead with the other Kryptonians going into the Year of the Villain. Superman, number 14. And from there we go to Justice League, number 30. The Justice Doom War begins, and you know the last issue was really well done with Starro and his offspring, who was in the Justice League, invading the Hall of Doom, and it says the Justice Doom War begins, but I think it really began last week, unless that was just a continued prologue. But I've liked it so far. You know, it's going to be a very, very dark year for the DC universe, and we'll see how the Justice League fares and see what kind of things happen with this. You know, because they're already, like I mentioned before the adventure really began, they're doing some big time shit. Whether or not it sticks or gets retconned, we don't know yet. But they're doing some big time shit, and I wonder what kind of shit's going to happen with the Justice League. So, yeah. Justice League, number 30. And from there, we have Justice League Dark, number 14. It was an okay book. I really like... I read this mainly because I really like Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing's a part of it. Swamp Thing... You know, I don't really believe he has a series right now that I can really jump right on into, so I kind of get my fix here. It's an okay book. It's definitely staved off the chopping block, and yeah, so far so good. And I like the last issue. We'll see how it continues. Justice League Dark, number 14. And from there, we go to The Flash, number 77. The Rogues have reloaded, and in this Year of the Villain, we'll see what's going to happen with the Rogues and with Captain Cold, and how are they going to make Barry's life miserable with everyone in the DC universe having a miserable life. So, yeah. There's one thing that I don't like about this, everything being under this year. On one hand, I do like it to a point, because it's affecting all the books. And it's not just one little, it's not just a mini-series that you have to read. It's just kind of something that's going on, and it's taking foothold in all the books. And that part, I do like it. On the other hand, it's just gonna get really old. I'm afraid that this year it's gonna get really old, and there's gonna be certain books where you're gonna be like, I'm tired of it being downers. I'm tired of the villains always winning in every single DC book. So, hopefully, we'll see how everything plays out. Hopefully, it's done in a way that keeps us interested without just getting us burnt out on always seeing the heroes get bad things done to them. Which I know is kind of the point of comic books, but still, you like to see rebound, you like to see more hope. And I know it's going to be a year of no hope, or a year of where it's going to look bleak, but eventually, with it encompassing the year and encompassing every single book, I hope it doesn't burn everybody out. So, we'll see where it goes from there. See where it goes with The Flash. The Flash, number 77. And the final book on this week's bounty is Terrifics, number 19. They're having to deal with Bizarro. And I like Bizarro. So, it's cool seeing Bizarro... because it is still the lighthearted nature of Bizarro, but still the danger is there. And that's kind of what I like about the Terrifics book, is you have a lot of lighthearted heroes there. You know, they're kind of the B-listers of the DC universe, but there's still kind of this danger and this seriousness to them. It's kind of like, almost like what I originally liked about the dichotomy in Legends of Tomorrow. While it's completely different type of storytelling, there's no time travel or nothing of that nothing of that nature. It's just kind of like, it's fun and you can smile and laugh watching it, but you can also, like, that it can get serious, kind of like the MCU as well. And that's what I've liked about this book. And Bizarro's awesome. Bizarro makes me laugh, but it also can freak me the hell out. So yeah, really liking this book so far. Right when I thought I was going to get rid of it, they bring in Bizarro and I'm happy again. So maybe it is the Bizarro world. Who knows? But yeah. Terrifics, number 19. And that is it for my large bounty this week. Let me know what you picked up at your local comic shop in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, give it a share. For more content, please subscribe. I have videos not just from the world of comics, but from the world of pro wrestling, gaming, and all things geek culture. Be sure to go like my Facebook page at facebook.com/athleticgeek89. There you will find every Thursday my collection comic of the week blog that is exclusive to my Facebook page. But other than that, I'm out. Y'all be cool. Later.